Good night, everyone. I hope you had a peaceful day, and now it's time to relax. A little moment just for yourself. As you lie down in bed, let your eyes slowly close and your body unwind. We are right here with you, ready to take you on another gentle journey through the night. Welcome to Stories for Sleep. I never used to believe in bedtime rituals. I thought saying goodnight was just a polite thing, a habit, not something that mattered. But I was wrong. Because now, if I don't whisper goodnight out loud before I fall asleep, something hunts me. And it doesn't stop until it hears it. It all started 6 weeks ago. It was just another ordinary night. I had brushed my teeth, climbed into bed, and turned off the lamp. I didn't say anything. No texts, no calls, no prayers. Just closed my eyes and went to sleep. But I woke up in the dark, 2:38 a.m. Something felt wrong. The room was too quiet, too still. Then I felt pressure at the foot of my bed, like something had just stepped onto the mattress. I froze, didn't move, didn't breathe. Then I heard it, a whisper, so close to my ear it made my skin crawl. "You forgot." I jumped up and turned on the light. No one was there. The room was empty. I thought maybe I'd had a nightmare, a sleep paralysis episode. I laughed it off. But the next night, it happened again, only worse. This time, I woke up to the sound of scratching, long, slow nails dragging across the wall above my headboard. Then something tapped on my forehead, light, like a finger. I opened my eyes, and for just a second, I saw it, a shape crouched on the ceiling, upside down. Its eyes were wide and white, and its mouth didn't move when I heard it whisper again, "You forgot to say goodnight." That night, I screamed, sprinted out of my room, slept on the floor of the living room with all the lights on. Nothing happened the rest of the night. The next evening, I didn't want to go back to bed, but I was exhausted. Just before I closed my eyes, without even thinking, I whispered, "Good night," and I slept peacefully. From then on, I whispered it every night, even if I was alone, even if I was dead tired, even if I was somewhere else. I whispered goodnight, not loudly, just enough that I could hear it, and nothing came. One night I was on a trip, staying at a friend's house. We'd been drinking, laughing, playing games. I passed out on the couch. No whisper, no routine. And at 2:38 a.m., I woke up. My heart was beating fast. The lights flickered. The air turned ice cold. And then, it crawled out from behind the couch. Tall, twisted, thin. Its hands scraped the floor. Its eyes glowed dull white. It didn't walk. It slithered like a shadow. It opened its mouth. No teeth, just darkness. And it shrieked, "You forgot me again." I couldn't move. I felt it grip my ankle, pull me halfway off the couch. Then I whispered, "Good night." Instantly, it let go, vanished. The room warmed again. Now I never forget, no matter where I am, even in public restrooms, even during flights. I whisper it, "Good night," because I've learned the rules. If I say it, I'm safe. If I forget, it comes, every single time. And each time, it gets braver, stronger, closer. Last week, I accidentally whispered night instead of the full word, and it showed up, smiling, whispered back, "That's not enough." So here's my warning to you. If you ever start this ritual, if you ever feel something shift in your room at 2:38 a.m., if you ever hear the wall breathe, whisper it. Say it fully. Good night. Because once it hears it, it leaves. But the moment you stop, it waits and hunts. It was supposed to be a quick overnight stay. I was driving cross-country, visiting my cousin in a small town I'd never been to before, Winchester Valley. A quiet place full of farmland, winding roads, and nearly identical homes with big porches and long driveways. He had sent me the address over text, 17 Willow Bend Lane. I arrived just before sunset. The house looked exactly like he'd described. White paint, green shutters, a rocking chair on the porch. His car wasn't in the driveway, but I figured he had stepped out. I tried the door. It was unlocked. I stepped inside, calling out, "Hey man, I'm here." No answer. The lights were off, but the house didn't feel abandoned. There was a faint smell of fresh bread, like someone had been in the kitchen earlier. I dropped my backpack on the couch and sent a text. "I'm here. Door was open. Let me know when you're back." No reply. It was a long drive. I was exhausted. I found a guest room with clean sheets and a nightstand lamp. Everything looked neat, untouched even. I didn't question it. I just laid down and fell asleep within minutes. I woke up at 2:11 a.m. The house was completely silent. Too silent. I couldn't even hear crickets outside. And then I noticed it. The door to my room was open. I was sure I had closed it. I sat up. Footsteps. Not fast, not loud. Just slow, deliberate steps down the hallway. I called out, "Cousin, is that you?" No response. Only footsteps. Then they stopped, right outside my door. I didn't move. My breath caught in my throat. Then I heard a whisper, not from the hallway, but inside the room, behind me. "You don't belong here." I jumped up and turned on the light. There was no one there, no one in the hallway, no one behind me. But the air was cold, and the walls suddenly looked older, dirtier than I remembered, as if decay had spread in the short time I slept. I grabbed my phone. No signal, no Wi-Fi, just the clock, 2:13 a.m. I went to the front door, tried opening it, locked. I hadn't locked it. There was no key. Every window was stuck shut. The house had changed. I ran back to the bedroom. My backpack was gone. Only the bed remained. No sheets now. Just a mattress, covered in dust. And on the nightstand was a photograph, a black and white picture of me, sleeping, in this house. I screamed, threw the photo. It hit the floor, and a small piece of paper fluttered out. It read, "You slept where she died." I don't know who she is, but I kept hearing her that night. Sometimes a whisper in the walls, sometimes a cry from the attic. Once, I swear, I felt her breath on my neck. By sunrise, the house looked different again. New paint, curtains on the windows, no sign of decay. My bag was on the couch, and the door? Unlocked. I ran. When I finally reached my cousin at the real 17 Willow Bend Lane, one street over, he stared at me in shock. "You went into the old Marshall house?" I nodded, still shaking. His face turned pale. "Dude, that house has been abandoned for 30 years. A girl died in her sleep there. People say she wakes up when someone else sleeps in her room by mistake." I asked, "What happens to them?" He hesitated. "No one really knows. Most of them don't talk about it. But sometimes they change. Since then, I've never been the same. I hear her in every house I sleep in. Clocks stop at 2:11 a.m. Doors open by themselves. And once, I looked in the mirror and saw her, smiling, standing behind me. So if you're ever traveling through Winchester Valley, check the number on the house. And if you hear soft footsteps in the night, don't move, don't breathe. And whatever you do, don't fall asleep in the wrong house." I've always had trouble sleeping. The only thing that helps is music, soft, wordless sounds that drift me off at night. So I made a playlist called Sleep Now on my Spotify account. Gentle piano, ocean waves, ambient tones, my comfort zone. For over a year, I listened to it every single night. No ads, no interruptions, just peace. Until 3 weeks ago, when my sleep playlist changed. Not by me, and not in any normal way. It started with one new track I didn't recognize, Room 6, Static Lullaby. Weird title, but I assumed maybe I added it by mistake. The sound was strange, low static, like a broken radio mixed with faint breathing. It made me uncomfortable, but I was tired, so I let it play. I had a nightmare that night, a dark hallway, one flickering door at the end. Room 6. I woke up sweating. I deleted the track from the playlist. The next night, it was back. Same title, same creepy breathing. But now, it was track 2. I knew I didn't add it again. I changed my password, enabled two-factor authentication. Everything looked secure, so I tried removing the playlist and making a new one. I called it Sleep Safe, added only my original tracks. That night, at 12:03 a.m., a notification popped up on my phone. Now playing Room 6, Static Lullaby. But I never added it. I opened Spotify. It wasn't on my new playlist, but it was still playing from somewhere. And worse, it didn't stop. I closed the app. Still playing. I restarted my phone. Still playing. I finally uninstalled Spotify. The sound vanished. But when I went to sleep that night, the song played inside my dream. I stood in the same hallway, same flickering light. But this time, the door to Room 6 was open. A shadow stood inside. Tall, thin, head tilted slightly, as if listening. And behind it, the breathing. Exactly like the track. I ran. Woke up screaming. Now every night a new track appears, each with a name more disturbing than the last. She's already inside. Static doesn't sleep. Footsteps in reverb. Play me or I'll come. I tried creating a fresh Spotify account. The songs still find me. Sometimes they play even when my phone is off. One night I decided to record myself sleeping. At exactly 2:34 a.m., the audio changed. From soft breathing to a voice. A woman's whisper. Not singing, not words. Just mimicking my own breathing. Then a phrase repeated 3 times. Your playlist is mine now. I sent the recording to a sound engineer. He said there was something embedded below the track, a second layer. He enhanced it and sent me a file called layer6666.wave. I played it once. It was filled with screaming, my voice, begging to wake up, but I don't remember recording it. The next morning, my sleep playlist name had changed. I didn't rename it. It now reads, Wake Me Up If You Can, and every track, named after different rooms. Room 1, Room 2, up to Room 6. The newest one, Room 7. Let me in. I stopped using music, started using sleep medication instead. But even when I wear earplugs, the tracks play in my head. They're in my dreams, in my mirror reflections. Once I saw the Spotify logo flash across my TV screen, even though it was off. Then a soft voice from behind me, play me. I don't know what's controlling it, a spirit, a code, a voice that lives in sound, but I know this. Every time I skip a song, I lose time. Last week I skipped Room 5, Breathing from Under. When I woke up, my fingernails were muddy. My front door was wide open, and I was missing an hour. Now, I let the tracks play, all of them, because once I tried to mute the playlist. And the next day, I found a note under my pillow, written in red ink, We're not just in your playlist, we're in your memory now. So if you ever hear music playing at night that you didn't add, and it says Room 6, or you hear breathing where there should be silence, don't delete the track. Don't ignore it. Don't pretend it's a glitch, because if the playlist becomes hers, you won't wake up to silence. You'll wake up to her, singing right beside you. I was advised to keep a sleep journal after I started having vivid nightmares and random episodes of sleepwalking. My doctor told me it would help identify patterns, what I ate, when I slept, if anything triggered the dreams. It sounded simple enough. So I bought a notebook, a plain, spiral-bound thing. On the first page, I wrote in blue ink, Night 1. Slept at 10:45 p.m. Dreamed about falling into an ocean. Woke up at 3:11 a.m. Sweating. That was all. The next morning, I flipped to the new page to log my second night. But I stopped. Because someone had already written on the page, in the same notebook, same handwriting style, but not mine. It read, "You didn't fall, you were pushed." I stared at it for a long time. I lived alone. No one had access to the notebook. I thought maybe I was sleep writing. Is that a thing? Writing while asleep? My doctor said it could happen, but it was rare. He told me to keep logging just in case, so I did. But every night after that, the journal wrote back. Night 3, me, slept at 11 o'clock p.m., dreamed of a hallway with flickering lights. Response, keep walking next time. There's someone waiting. Night 5, me, no dreams, woke up with a nosebleed. Response, you were digging again, stop digging. Night 7, me, saw a woman with no face. She whispered my name. Response, she's remembering you now. It wasn't just creepy. The entries knew things I hadn't written. One night I forgot to log anything. The next morning the page read, you still screamed. I heard you. Another night, I wrote nothing about the dream, only the time I went to bed. But the journal said, why did you go back to the lake? He's still in the water. I tried burning the journal. I lit a match and dropped it on the cover. It caught fire, curled at the edges, then went out on its own. The paper was cold. I threw it in the trash. The next morning, it was back on my nightstand, open to a blank page, waiting. The entries became more urgent. One night, I had a dream that felt realer than anything before. I was in a dark house, walls covered in mirrors. Someone was pounding on the other side of every mirror, screaming, begging me to open them. When I woke up, my room was freezing. The journal was open. The page read, you left them behind. I started to believe the journal wasn't just reacting to my dreams. It was directing them, telling me where to go, what to do, who to find, like I was being pulled deeper every night into a place I couldn't escape. Then came night 20. I woke up on the floor, scratches on my arms, dirt under my fingernails, and the journal now had two sets of handwriting, mine and someone else's. Their entry said, thank you, I've made it through. And below that, written in a shaky version of my own handwriting, I'm still there. I realized something horrifying. I never woke up. That version of me, the one writing in the journal now, it wasn't me. It was something else. And I'm the one trapped in the dreams now, begging, screaming, writing back through pages I can't control. I tried to warn myself. I scratched messages into the margins, wrote backward in dreams, spoke through reflections. But the other me just keeps writing normal entries, smiling in the mirror, living my life, sleeping in my bed. And now, I feel her again. The woman with no face. Only this time, I can hear her laugh. The laughter echoes through the blank pages ahead. I don't know how many more nights I'll get, but if you're reading this, if you ever find a journal that writes back, burn it and pray it doesn't come back, because once you write in it, it remembers and it never lets go. It happened again last night. I woke up in bed, blanket pulled over me, pillow slightly askew, and my feet were muddy. Dark, wet earth caked between my toes. Small leaves stuck to my soles. The smell of damp soil and cold wind. But the door was locked. My windows were closed. There were no signs that I'd left the house. This was the 4th time this month, and I live alone. The first time I laughed it off. Maybe I'd walked barefoot outside to get something from the porch. Maybe I was just too tired to remember. It was summer. It made sense. But it didn't stop. It got worse. By the second time, I started taking precautions. I placed a motion detector near the door. I put my shoes in the closet and locked it. I even placed flour on the floor, like in movies, to check for footprints. The next morning, no prints, no door movement, no alarm. But the bed was dirtied again, and the mud was fresh. I asked my neighbors if they'd seen anything. Mrs. Connors from across the street said something strange. You know that land behind your house used to be part of the old woods. People say weird things happened back there. The ground remembers. I didn't understand what she meant, but I started paying attention to my dreams. That's when things truly got terrifying. I started dreaming of a forest path, winding and wet, tall trees above, fog all around, and always I was walking, barefoot. Sometimes I'd follow a whisper. Other times it felt like something was pulling me by the chest. One night, I reached a clearing. There was a stone well in the center, old, cracked, covered in vines. As I leaned forward to look inside, I heard a voice from below. Come back. I woke up that night with mud, not just on my feet, but up to my knees. I went to the doctor. Sleepwalking was the obvious diagnosis. They gave me pills, suggested therapy. I tried, really. But every time I took the pills, the dreams became more vivid. I started waking with scratches, tiny pebbles in my sheets. Once, even a fern leaf in my hair. And worse, footprints next to my bed. Not mine. I decided to record myself sleeping. I placed my phone on a tripod, pointing at the bed. I watched the footage the next day with shaking hands. At 2:47 a.m. I sat up. Not slowly, suddenly, like I was listening to something. Then I got up and just stood there, facing the wall, for almost 9 minutes. Then I whispered something, "I'm coming," and walked off screen. But the door never opened. I was never seen leaving. I was just gone for 2 hours. And then, at 4:59 a.m., I walked back into frame, covered in dirt, smiling. And as I lay down, I whispered, "Thank you for waiting." The next night, I tried chaining my ankle to the bedpost. It was a soft restraint, just to test. The following morning, the chain was unlocked, neatly coiled on the floor. My feet? Filthy. And the dream that night, I reached the well again. This time I climbed down, stone by stone, deeper into the dark. At the bottom, there was a girl, back turned, hair over her face, whispering. When I asked her name, she turned around and said, "You already know me. I've walked with you for years." I found an old photo in the attic last week. It was hidden in a box labeled "Previous Owner." In the photo was a young man standing outside the house. Next to him, the same girl from my dreams. On the back of the photo, in faded pencil, she never stopped walking the forest, even when we buried her. I dug through old town records, the woods behind my house. They used to be called Widow's Walk. A girl named Clara went missing there in 1923. Some say she was sleepwalking. Others say she followed a whisper. They never found her body, only muddy footprints leading away from her bedroom window. Now, it's every night. I wake with dirt in my nails, twigs in my sheets. Once, even a bird feather in my mouth. I stop trying to fight it. I just leave a towel by the bed. Now, but last night was different. I woke up with mud on my hands and a note on my pillow in old, cracked paper. "Thank you for showing me the way back. I'll let you rest now." I was relieved. Maybe it was over. But this morning, I found my shoes by the back door, soaked, and a second pair of footprints in the mud, not heading toward the forest, but toward my neighbor's house. So if you ever wake up with muddy feet, don't ignore it. Don't assume it's nothing. And whatever you do, don't follow the dream path to the well, because once she walks with you, she never walks alone again. It started when I was 12. The first time I remember waking up somewhere I didn't fall asleep. I went to bed in my room, woke up on the roof of our house, still wrapped in my blanket, still in my pajamas. No ladder, no explanation. Just cold morning wind and birds staring at me. My parents thought I was sleepwalking. Doctors said it was stress. I started therapy, changed diet, meds. Didn't help. Because every seventh night, like clockwork, I woke up somewhere else. Sometimes it was harmless, in the bathtub, under the dining table, on the porch swing. Other times, much worse. One time I woke up in our neighbor's garage, lying between toolboxes. Another time, I was in the middle of a field I'd never seen before. But the scariest part wasn't the where, it was the how. No doors were open, no windows broken, no cameras caught a thing. One minute I was asleep in my bed, the next, gone. By the time I turned 20, I had accepted it. Every seventh night I tied myself to the bed with soft restraints. Didn't work. I'd still wake up somewhere new, but the restraints were always neatly removed, coiled beside me, like someone had unlocked them, carefully. It wasn't until last year that I started keeping track. And that's when I noticed the pattern. Not just the 7-day cycle, but the places. They were all connected. I mapped them on Google Earth. Every location formed a perfect circle, with my house at the center. Each place exactly 7 miles apart. I told my friend Daniel. He was the first person who didn't laugh. He offered to stay over during the 7th night and set up cameras. We did it. He mounted cameras in my room, locked all doors, even sat outside my door all night. Still, I was gone by sunrise. And this time, I woke up inside his car, parked at a gas station 2 towns away. The driver's seat was reclined, keys still in the ignition, and there was mud on the floor. Daniel never stayed over again. I started noticing new signs each cycle. Small bruises on my feet, faint cuts on my hands. Once, a blister on my tongue. Then came the dreams. I began dreaming of an old cabin in the woods, empty, cold, full of mirrors. And in every mirror, myself, standing still. But my reflection blinked late, or smiled when I didn't. One night I finally made it to the cabin in real life. Woke up inside it, surrounded by broken glass and torn blankets. That night I wrote a message on the wall using charcoal. If you see this and it's still night, wake up. Next 7th night, I woke there again. The message was still there, but a second message had been added underneath it. You're already dreaming. I tried moving houses. Didn't matter. The curse, or whatever it was, followed me. Hotels, Airbnbs, friends' couches. Still, on every 7th night, I disappeared. And always to a new place. Sometimes nearby, sometimes dozens of miles away. Once, I even woke up in a cave, curled between damp rocks, with wax from a candle beside me. But I never remembered how I got there. Then came the worst night of all. I woke up in a basement, strapped to a chair, a flashlight flickering above me, and carved into the floor in circles. Sleep is a door. I screamed, but no one came. I sat there for hours until the morning sun peeked through a tiny window. Then I blacked out. When I woke up again, I was back in my bed, door still locked, cameras untouched. That's when I realized I wasn't just waking up somewhere new. Something else was waking up in my place. On the 7th night, while I sleepwalk, it sleepwalks into my body. And maybe, just maybe, it doesn't always leave. Now I've started to notice things I didn't before. My toothbrush is sometimes wet before I use it. The fridge has food I never bought. My browser history shows places I've never searched. And one day, Daniel messaged me, "Hey, weird question, but why did you come by my place last Thursday? You looked off. You didn't talk, just stood outside my window, then walked away." That was the 7th night. I don't think I'm alone anymore. Every seventh night, I sleep somewhere new, but I don't think I'm the one choosing where I go. And when I come back, I'm starting to wonder, is it really me that wakes up, or just what's left behind? It began with small things, a sock disappearing, the living room lights turning on by themselves, music playing from my Bluetooth speaker, even though I hadn't touched it. I blamed it on stress, on working too many hours, on living alone for the first time. But then, my toothbrush ended up in the freezer. I woke up early, groggy and half asleep, stumbled into the bathroom ready to brush my teeth. But my toothbrush wasn't in the holder, not on the counter, not in the sink. I searched everywhere. And finally, I opened the freezer. There it was, right next to a frozen bag of peas, frosted over, bristles stiff. I stood there for a long time, staring, trying to remember. Did I do this in my sleep? I laughed nervously, took it out, ran it under hot water, and threw it away. Bought a new one, didn't think much of it, until it happened again. A week later, the second toothbrush was missing. I found it in the freezer again. Only this time, it was in a Ziploc bag, like someone had carefully sealed it for storage. I knew I hadn't done that. I live alone, no guests, no sleepwalking history. Still, I told myself maybe I was moving things without realizing it. But then, it wasn't just the toothbrush. My phone ended up in the microwave, my keys in the washing machine, a slice of bread under my pillow. Each time I'd wake up not remembering how any of it happened, and every time it happened at night. I set up a camera in my kitchen, pointed it toward the freezer, just in case. That night I went to bed early, left the new toothbrush in the bathroom, woke up the next morning. Toothbrush? Gone. I opened the freezer. There it was. Again. I checked the footage. My stomach dropped. At 2:41 a.m. the camera caught movement, but it wasn't me. It looked like me. Same pajamas, same posture. But the face was wrong. Too still, too calm, eyes wide open, like I wasn't walking, but being puppeteered. The video showed me walking into the kitchen, opening the drawer, taking the toothbrush, then pausing, looking directly into the camera. No blink, no expression, then placing the toothbrush gently into the freezer. I was frozen in place as I watched it. That wasn't sleepwalking. That was something else. I called a friend, Lisa, told her what happened. She stayed the night the following weekend. We both went to sleep in separate rooms. In the morning, she looked pale. "You were standing in my doorway," she whispered. "You didn't say anything, just stared. I called your name. You walked away." I hadn't left my room, but the new toothbrush? Gone again. Back in the freezer. This time it was wet, like it had been used before being frozen. Lisa didn't stay again. I tried sleeping with the lights on. I tried locking myself in, but the locks were undone every morning. Lights turned off. Toothbrush always moved. Then came the worst night. I dreamed of a man made of frost standing in my hallway. His fingers, long, skin, blue and cracked. He opened the freezer with a smile and whispered, "Cold keeps memory fresh." When I woke up, the freezer was wide open. And not just the toothbrush inside now, but a journal. A journal I didn't remember writing. Page after page of notes. Keep freezing the mouth. Don't let the voice come out. I went to a sleep clinic. They ran tests, EEGs, scans, all normal. But the sleep technician pulled me aside afterward. "Your brainwaves show an odd spike at exactly 2:41 a.m., like you go somewhere else for a few minutes." "Somewhere else?" He nodded. "Like your consciousness disconnects, and something else steps in." Now I've started locking the freezer. Still, every 2:41 a.m., I hear it click open, no matter the lock. And worse, the toothbrush is no longer mine. It's old, brown, cracked. Too small, a child's toothbrush, not one I've ever owned. Last night, I dreamed of a freezer in a basement, a small boy crying beside it, blood in his mouth, and a voice from inside the freezer whispering, "We remember you." This morning, the mirror had a message in toothpaste. Put it back. I wiped it clean. And now I sit here writing this. Because tonight is 2:41 a.m. and the freezer is humming again, louder than usual, like something's inside, waiting to come out. I never used the attic. It was dusty, full of spider webs, and the wooden stairs creaked like they were screaming every time you touched them. When I bought the house last spring, the real estate agent said, "You'll probably never use that old thing." She was right, until the sleepwalking began. At first, it was small things. I'd wake up with my feet dirty, or find the fridge door slightly open. Once I woke up with my phone in the bathroom sink. My doctor said it was stress. New home, new environment. Maybe you're just adjusting. So I didn't worry too much. Until I started waking up at the attic door. The first time, I was standing in front of it, barefoot, shivering. The attic door was cracked open, just an inch, enough to see darkness, enough to feel watched. I ran back to bed and locked my bedroom door. The next morning, the attic door was wide open. I didn't go inside, not that day, but I felt it watching me now. The house felt different, like there was something upstairs that hadn't been there before. I set up a baby monitor outside the attic door, not to catch ghosts, just to calm my nerves. That night, I reviewed the footage. At 3:14 a.m., I walked out of my room, not fast, not slow, almost like I was following a sound. I stood in front of the attic. Then I said something. "I'm coming," and opened the door. I don't remember any of it, but the next morning, the attic door was open again, just like in the video. A cold breeze drifted down the stairs, and something smelled like flowers. The third time I sleepwalked, I woke up halfway up the attic stairs, hands on the steps, head tilted up, like I had frozen mid-climb. I looked down. There were fingerprints in the dust above me, tiny, child-sized fingerprints. I told my friend Kyle about it. He came over that weekend to help me check the attic. We found an old wooden chest in the corner. Inside were dolls, all with their faces scratched out. And at the bottom, a letter, yellow and soft from age. To Mary, stay in the attic like you're told. You know what happens when you come down. M. That night, Kyle stayed over. At 3:14 a.m., I woke up screaming. Kyle rushed into my room. I was under the bed, clutching one of the attic dolls I hadn't touched. After that, Kyle refused to come back. I started keeping a journal of everything. The dreams, the noises, the voice that started whispering in my sleep. Come back. It's cold without you. One night, I gave in. I let myself go up the stairs, wide awake. The attic was completely dark, except for a small candle burning in the center. Next to it sat a little girl, no older than 7. Her dress was torn, hair tangled, eyes black, hollow, like empty tunnels. She looked up at me and said, "I knew you'd come back." I backed away, fell down the stairs, slammed the attic door shut. I locked it, nailed it, even pushed a heavy dresser in front. But the next morning, the door was open again, and on the inside wall, scratched deep into the wood, "Don't leave me again." I researched the house. A girl named Mary lived here in 1926. Her parents were strict, some say abusive. The story goes, they locked her in the attic as punishment. She died there, alone, cold, forgotten. Now, I think she's attached to the house, to anyone who sleeps here, and somehow, she thinks I'm her. Each sleepwalking episode takes me higher, closer. I've started sleeping on the couch, far from the stairs. But every 3:14 a.m., something drags me closer to that door. My feet move without me. Last time, I woke up with attic dust in my mouth. And last night, I found my pillow in the attic, laid perfectly beside the candle. I think Mary wants me to stay with her, to never leave the attic again. I'm not sure what happens when I reach the top and stay, but I'm afraid I'm almost there. And once I lie down beside her, I won't wake up as me anymore. The first thing I noticed when I woke up was that the ceiling wasn't mine. It was old, cracked, and slightly yellowed in the corners, like from years of smoke or damp air. The light bulb above buzzed softly. I sat up slowly. The bed I was in wasn't mine. The sheets were worn. The room smelled faintly like lavender. And something else. Mildew, maybe. And worst of all, I didn't recognize anything. My heart started racing. I looked around. No photos, no mirrors. Just faded wallpaper with tiny blue flowers, peeling in spots. There was an old dresser, a single wooden chair, a closed window with thick curtains. I stood up, dizzy. My clothes weren't mine either. I was wearing a white nightgown, one I had never seen before, and on the bedside table was a glass of water, half full, still cold, like someone had just left. I tried the door. It was unlocked. I stepped into a narrow hallway. Wooden floors creaked with each step. Several closed doors, one at the end of the hall, slightly open. I walked toward it, heart pounding. Inside was a kitchen, old, still, a kettle on the stove, no noise. But what caught my eye was the framed photo on the wall. 3 people, a woman, a man, and me. Only, I had never met those people in my life. My hands started shaking. I turned to leave and nearly bumped into an old man. He was standing in the doorway, eyes wide, tears welling up. "Anna," he whispered, "is it really you?" I didn't know what to say. "I'm not Anna." I said, "I think there's been some kind of mistake." His hands trembled. He walked closer, studied my face. You look just like her." He led me to the living room, sat me on a couch with a patchwork quilt. He moved slowly, like every step was pain. I told him everything, that I had gone to bed in my apartment across town, that I lived alone, that I worked at a bookstore, and now I had woken up here in his house wearing clothes I didn't own. He listened carefully, never interrupting. Then he said, "Anna was my daughter. She went missing in 1987. This was her room." I felt sick. No, I couldn't be her. I wasn't even born then. But the photo, the nightgown, the way the room looked, lived in, it didn't make sense. He said the room had been untouched since she vanished, but someone had recently slept there. The sheets were fresh. The water was cold. I tried calling my phone, but it wasn't in my pocket. The man said he hadn't seen any phone, no purse, no ID. He offered to drive me to the police. I agreed. We got into his truck. It was ancient, barely ran. I kept quiet the whole drive. But as we reached the police station, something was wrong. There were no cars outside, no lights on, and the town looked off. The streets were empty. The signs faded. No one was around. We walked up to the door, locked. The man frowned. "This place never closes," he muttered. That's when I noticed the calendar inside the window. The date read March 12th, 1987. I backed away. "This isn't real," I whispered. "This isn't real." He looked at me. "Maybe you're not supposed to leave just yet." I ran. I sprinted through the streets. All the stores were closed, curtains drawn. Every house had a porch light on, but no shadows inside. I finally stopped at a phone booth, picked up the receiver. No dial tone, just a faint voice whispering, "Come home, Anna." I collapsed in a park, fell asleep from exhaustion. When I woke up, I was back in my own apartment. Same clothes I went to bed in. Phone on the nightstand. Nothing out of place. But something felt different. The air smelled like lavender. And on the floor beside my bed, the same white nightgown, folded, clean. I thought it was over. Until the next week, when I woke up in another strange house. Different room, different city. Another old man crying. Another calendar from decades ago. It's been 4 times now. Every time, the house is from the past. And each time, someone believes I'm someone they lost. I don't know how or why it's happening. But I fear that one day, I won't wake up in my own bed again. And when that day comes, will I still be me? Or just a memory that found its way home through someone else's dream? It sounds strange, I know, but I have to sleep on my left side every night. Not because it's comfortable, not because of health, but because if I sleep on my right side, she comes, and she doesn't come quietly. I first noticed it 2 years ago after moving into a small 1-bedroom apartment just outside Boise, Idaho. It was peaceful, affordable, and near my new job. I was happy. Life felt normal again, until the dream started. It began subtly. Every time I accidentally rolled onto my right side while sleeping, I'd wake up in a cold sweat. At 3:11 a.m., the dreams were always the same. I'd see a woman in the corner of the room, long black hair, pale face, head tilted unnaturally. She'd just stand there, half in shadow, not moving, not blinking, just watching. At first I thought it was sleep paralysis, but the more it happened, the more real it felt. Until one night, I woke up and saw her, not in a dream, but in the mirror across from my bed. I was lying on my right side. I turned quickly. No one was there, but the mirror still showed her. That's when the rule became clear. If I sleep on my right side, she appears. If I sleep on my left, she stays away. I tested it. 3 nights on my left side, no dreams, no shadow. Then one night, I turned over again, without thinking. And at 3:11 a.m., I woke up gasping. My entire room was ice cold, and she was sitting on the edge of the bed, closer than ever, whispering, "You turned." I screamed, flipped the lights on. She vanished. But the next morning, I found a long black hair on the pillow beside me. I live alone. I started building a system to keep myself safe. I pushed pillows behind me to prevent rolling, tied a scarf around my waist and anchored it to the wall. Set alarms for 3:10 a.m., just in case. It worked, for a while. Then I got lazy. One night, I skipped the setup. I had a stressful day, forgot the scarf, told myself I was overthinking. At 3:11, the alarm rang. I was on my right side again. The bed was shaking, but only under me. The wall above my head cracked, just slightly, and from the ceiling, a drop of black water hit my cheek. I looked up. She was on the ceiling, crawling. Her neck twisted as she turned her face toward mine and smiled. I screamed myself hoarse, but nothing came out. Then I heard it. A voice, but not hers. A whisper, like someone else was in the room. She's closer now. From then on, she started leaving marks. Red handprints on my arms, thin bruises around my neck. The doctor said I was likely hurting myself in my sleep. I didn't argue. What could I say? That a ghost was punishing me for turning in bed? I searched for help, spoke to priests, psychics, sleep doctors. No one could explain it. Until I found a forum, a post from 2006 buried deep in a dream discussion board. The user had the same experience, only instead of sleeping on the right, they had to sleep facing the door. Their final post said, "She moves when you forget, and she remembers when you lie." Now, even during naps, I force myself onto my left side. I won't let myself fall asleep facing the wrong way, because the last time I slipped up, she left a note beside my bed, scratched into the wall in letters too thin to be from a pen. It read, "Almost mine." I can't run. I've tried sleeping in hotels, different beds, even couches. But she follows the rule, not the room. Once I tied myself down completely, but somehow I still woke up turned, and she was lying beside me, breathing, whispering, "You turned again. Soon you'll stay turned forever." Now I don't sleep peacefully. I sleep scared, facing left, always. If I feel myself roll, I force my body back, even in pain, even if my arm goes numb, because if I don't, she'll crawl closer, whisper louder, until one day, she doesn't disappear at dawn, and I wake up, with her face right next to mine. This story may sound strange, even silly at first, but I swear to you this is all true. If I ever skip my midnight tea, a spirit comes to visit, and each time it comes, it stays a little longer. It started last winter. I had just moved into an old cottage in the English countryside, inherited from my grandmother. She was a quiet, strange woman, always sipping tea at midnight by the fireplace. She'd never miss it, not once. When I was a child visiting her, I'd wake up to the smell of jasmine and rose hips around 12 a.m. She'd be sitting in her robe, sipping tea, staring into the fire. Once I asked her why. She only said, "It's polite to keep our visitors happy, dear." I thought she meant neighbors, or night birds. I was wrong. After her passing, I moved into the house. It was beautiful, but cold, like something had been holding its breath. There were many of her old things left untouched. An iron teapot, old tea leaves in labeled jars, even a brass bell next to her cup. And on the kitchen wall, in her handwriting, was a short note. "Midnight, 1 cup, 1 soul, do not forget." I assumed it was one of her poems, until I skipped the tea. The first night, I forgot entirely. I was tired, unpacking, and went straight to bed. At exactly 12:01 a.m., I heard the bell, the small brass bell, the one I hadn't touched. It rang once, then silence. I went into the kitchen. Everything was in place, except the kettle. It was boiling, but I hadn't turned it on. The next night, I remembered. Made tea just before midnight. Sat quietly, sipping it in the same spot she always did. Nothing strange happened, but I started to feel like someone was sitting beside me. The air was warmer, almost calm. So, out of respect, I whispered, "Good night." That routine became normal. Every night I made tea at midnight, sat in silence for 10 minutes, drank slowly, whispered good night. It was peaceful. Until one night, I broke the ritual again. I had a friend visiting. We stayed up late talking. I didn't tell him about the tea. I didn't want to seem weird. By the time I looked at the clock, it was 12:23 a.m. Too late. I laughed it off. My friend went to sleep in the guest room. I tried to sleep too. But something was off. At exactly 3:33 a.m., I woke up. The room smelled like burnt flowers, like petals turned to ash. And then, the bedroom door creaked open. Slowly. No footsteps, no wind, just the sound of the bell. Once. Then a soft voice behind me. "You forgot us." I couldn't move. My body frozen, eyes wide open, staring at the wall. I heard breathing, slow, cold, and a finger brushed down my spine. When I could finally turn around, the room was empty. But the kettle, boiling again. After that night, I never missed tea again. I tried once more just to test it. I waited, curious. 12:01, nothing. 12:15, nothing. 3:33 a.m. I woke up to find a wet teacup beside my bed, and written in the steam on my window were the words, "Too late to be polite." I searched the house for answers, found one of her old journals. One entry stood out. It read, "There are spirits who remember the warmth of tea, the kindness of a cup shared. But if the cup is forgotten, they come to drink your memory instead. Now I know the truth. The tea is not for me. It never was. It's for them. Whoever, whatever they are. Polite spirits, maybe, but only as long as they're fed. Every night I still sit at the fire. Same seat, same tea. Sometimes I hear a sigh. Sometimes I see steam rise from the empty cup across from me. One time I looked up too quickly, saw the outline of a woman, thin, hollow eyes, smiling politely. She nodded once, then vanished with the scent of jasmine. So please, if you ever inherit an old house and you find a teapot that boils itself, a bell that rings once, and a cup left untouched at midnight, make the tea, sit down, pour 2 cups, and always say good night. I never owned an alarm clock. I always used my phone, set it to 7:30 a.m., vibration only. So the first time I heard the alarm clock ring, a loud, old-fashioned metal bell sound, it confused me. It was coming from under the floorboards, and it rang at exactly 3:06 a.m. At first I thought it was a neighbor, maybe someone below me in the apartment complex. But my building has no basement, just a concrete foundation beneath the wood flooring, and I live on the ground floor. Still, I shrugged it off. Maybe I was dreaming. But the next night, the same thing happened. 3:06 a.m., a loud metal alarm bell, like the kind you twist to wind up, coming from below my bed. I got up and checked everything, lifted the rug, tapped on the floor. Nothing. I even put my ear against the wooden planks. Silence. But the moment I turned away, it rang again. One loud, final ding. I froze. That wasn't my imagination. I started recording the sound using my phone, set it to record overnight, placed it on the floor. The next morning, I played it back. Nothing for hours, until 3:06 a.m. A faint ticking sound. Then, the loud ring, ring, ring of an old alarm clock, followed by something worse. After the ringing, a faint voice whispered, "Wake up." I took the recording to the building manager. He said no one had ever reported anything like it. And then he added something strange. This used to be 2 apartments. The one next door collapsed in the 90s during renovations. One of the workers disappeared. They say he was working under the floor. He laughed nervously. I didn't. The next night, I put my mattress on the living room floor, slept far from that spot. But again, 3:06 a.m., the alarm rang. Still faint. Still from the bedroom floorboards. Still followed by a whisper, "You forgot me." I was scared now. I couldn't sleep. I pulled up one of the wooden planks with a crowbar. Nothing unusual, just subflooring, dirt underneath. But there was a strange smell, dusty, metallic, like rusted iron and old blood. And something else, an old watch face, buried in the dirt, cracked, stuck at 3:06. I didn't touch it. I sealed the floor back up. That night, the alarm didn't ring. I thought it was over. But instead of the usual sound, I heard scraping, like metal being dragged across wood. Then the voice again, louder this time. "You covered me." I tried burning sage, praying, even slept with noise-canceling headphones, but nothing stopped it. At 3:06, every night without fail, I heard it. Until one night, I saw something worse. I woke up at 3:05, 1 minute before it started. The room was quiet, still. Then I saw the floor bulge, just slightly, like something was pushing from underneath. I held my breath. The wood split slightly. Dust poured out. And I saw a hand, pale, thin, with a cracked watch around the wrist. The alarm rang from the floor, louder than ever. The voice screamed, "I'm still here!" I ran out of the apartment and didn't come back until daylight. I called a team to investigate. They found bones, deep below the subflooring, in a pocket of dirt that wasn't supposed to be there. One skeleton, still wearing a rusted work belt and clutching a broken alarm clock. The coroner said the remains were at least 30 years old. The body had never been found until now. I moved out, but sometimes, when I wake up at night in my new place, I hear a faint tick, tick, tick. And once, just once, I woke at exactly 3:06 a.m. to the sound of a familiar alarm bell. Far away, but getting closer. So now, I never sleep through the night, because something was trapped for decades. And now that it's awake, it might never stop ringing.